Since Trump was elected, we've come to expect inflammatory and unhinged statements. But according to the GOP, his party, it's coming from the Democrats. Yeah. Here's a new ad they're putting out.
I just don't even know why there aren't uprisings all over the country.
And if you see anybody from that cabinet in a restaurant, in a department store, at a gasoline station, you get out and you create a crowd.
Do something about your dad's immigration practices, you feckless.
What's Uncle Tom but for white women who disappoint other white women?
One way you get rid of Trump is a crashing economy, so please bring on the recession.
When was the last time an actor assassinated a president?
I have thought an awful lot about blowing up the White House.
Oh, so it's coming from the left only. Well, I beg to differ. They are a little crazy over there sometimes. But look at this.
If you see somebody getting ready to throw a tomato, knock the crap out of them, would you? Seriously.
I love how the fake news is saying we're fake news, and they're specifically themselves over Pizzagate.
The reforms I'm proposing would not apply to those who are here illegally.
Jews will not replace us! Jews will not replace us!
Yeah, Trummers, all of them. So who's really setting the tone here, do you think, ladies?
Well, obviously...
Who's more unhinged?
Well, there's a lot of unhinged going around, unfortunately, but it starts from the top. When you have the President of the United States that engages in unhinged behavior, then it gives license to other people to think that the coarsening of our dialogue is okay, and it's not. And the fact that both sides aren't necessarily owning it and saying, stop this, at least some of that started to happen with the Maxine Waters rebuke of what she said. At least they did that. But my party, Republicans, have really just rolled over and decided that they'd rather just be cult-like sycophants and just ignore what Donald Trump has done and this tone that he has set. It's embarrassing and it's hypocritical.
Wasn't the first sin when he said, you lie?
Yeah, Joe Wilson. I was actually there. I worked on Capitol Hill at that time. Yeah.
It was like, that's the first time I ever heard anything quite like that.
But Republicans did rebuke him for that, at least at the time. They said that was, it was a break of decorum and it shouldn't have been done.
But I completely agree with you. The tone has to come from the top. I don't think that we have seen this type of vitriol before. I think this is uncharted territory. I think this is new. And quite frankly, I would be more comfortable with the Republican Party if they stood up, if leadership stood up and said something to this president. And I would also
they're not going to do that.
Yeah, I mean, let's face it, this president not only is unhinged on Twitter, let's never forget that a woman died at that tiki torch holding rally, and he said there are good people on both sides.
Yes.
And that, for me, set the tone. That tells me that it is okay.
And yet his numbers are up amongst the Republican Party.
The tone, we saw it coming from the campaign through the election.
Yes.
That was the first time, and I think part of the reason so many people couldn't stop watching is a little bit of shock of, is this what debates are going to be about? Is this what it's like now? The thing is, I don't like it on either side, because some people will argue because of him and because of all his awful rhetoric or his policies that we must rise up and take to the streets. I agree with speaking up and screaming loudly, but I don't think it's the most...
efficient?
Not just efficient, it's not the smartest way.
Right.
It's a chess match. And this isn't something where when you say, well, they did it first, that didn't win on the playground, it's not going to win here. But you have to have a calculation down the road.
Absolutely.
I have a few things to say. The first thing is that Alex Jones' inclusion of that, I take such offense at. He is a lunatic that has had to apologize to yogurt.
Madonna doesn't speak for the Democrats.
But Trump also validated Alex Jones, unfortunately,
by
appearing on the show.
This is a man who had to apologize to yogurt. Again, like, he's absolutely out of his mind, and I don't like giving him any attention anywhere. I don't think he should be on ABC.
But why would the president give him attention?
I'm still speaking.
I mean, that's unbelievable.
Secondly, I am also a Republican. I don't consider myself in a cult. I don't consider myself a sycophant. I just don't suffer from Trump derangement syndrome. I'm not someone in the Republican Party that lost my mind and can't call balls and strikes like I see them. His 2 Supreme Court decisions, big wins for us. He has made decisions that I agree with. When you're talking about vitriol, I'm sorry, but my family obviously has been at the direct target of that, and I understand that as well. But as commentators, we have to call balls and strikes like we see them, because if you start turning into Trump, as some commentators in my own party have done, and you become him and you suffer from Trump derangement syndrome, everyone stops listening to each other one way or the other, and we have to be intellectual. intellectually.
Well, but how do you, okay, a lot of people agree with that. But my question is, then how do you speak truth to power when power has so much power in all the areas?
Legally. You do it by protesting. You do it by engaging with your civil servants. I think there is
ballot box.
And at the ballot box, it's our constitutional right to do that.
How do you fight his constant lying? For instance, he's already tainted the Mueller investigation with so many lies, and he's told people it's not going to be true. So when the Mueller investigation comes out and says guilty, 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 is anyone going to believe it? How do you respond to that sort of lying and mendacity?
With truth.
And the other thing is, right now you have Republicans in every branch of the government, and in order for it to be a little more balanced, people should be looking to the midterms. And if you're moderate or you typically, swing to the right a little bit, maybe you look and say, for this to be more of a conversation to push back, we need to have one part of this government represented by Democrats. They don't have power right now.
Well, but if Democrats continue to act like that, what we just saw, then that doesn't make any.
Well, not like that, Tarek. What's your advice?
You have to come back with facts and act rationally, not so emotionally with things, because emotion begets emotion in ways that I think become very dangerous and counterproductive. The words that the Democrats are using, and like what Maxine Waters was doing, what Samantha Bee did, like those things just elevate the ugliness. What did Michelle Obama say? When they go low, you go high. And I think if Democrats did that, they wouldn't.
You say when they go low, we should go lower. But Sarah, we've been talking all week on the show about what Maxine Waters said.
Right.
And the problem right now is, for me, even when I want to meet in the middle, which I concede on the middle on this show often, and I don't understand the idea that for a swath of the Democratic Party, it is now socially acceptable to go up to someone who works in the White House, which includes people in my family, as I've said, and harass them in public.
Crazy.
That could escalate easily.
Crazy.
Again,
it's dangerous.
Steve Scalise, Gabby Giffords, if we are learning nothing, it is a dangerous world out there, and that messaging from Democrats is not going to fly in.
Absolutely not. And that emboldens the other side, too.
Harassment is
I'm using Maxine Waters' words, harassment.
Harassment
she
is
said
inappropriate.
Harassment.
But I do believe that we can never forget that it is our constitutional right to speak up, to speak out, and to protest. It is our constitutional right to meet with our public servants.
I'm not saying protesting. There's a difference between protesting and harassment. Coming to a mob and coming up to a group of people, if you're again, it could possibly be me, as I've said the entire week.
Yes.
Going to a restaurant and being harassed. The words Maxine Waters used. It should not be socially acceptable. I thought it was also illegal to harass people in this country.
She did not say anybody should be harmed.
She said harassment.
She did say harass.
Harassment means we disagree with you, we don't like your policies.
Harassment is never appropriate, and yes, harassment is illegal. However, protest peacefully, speaking your mind, speaking your voice is not illegal, and in fact, it is our right.
Okay, I gotta go. We'll be right back with more Hot Topics.
Oh my goodness! I am so proud.
Oh, thank you.
I am so proud of you. Congratulations. We had you walk out to Bruce Springsteen's Born to Run because your opponent, Joe Crowley, dedicated a rendition of the song to you after your victory, which was incredible. Did you have any idea that you would win?
I spent the last year and a half knocking doors just thinking about 8:59 p.m. on Tuesday.
Wow.
And I had no idea or preparation for anything that would happen after that. I just figured I'm going to work as hard as I can and just leave it up to the universe. So I think I was just so surprised. I was so shocked, walking in there. Oh my goodness. I wasn't even checking on my phone. I was so nervous. Wow. And then so walking in was literally the moment I had seen the results.
And here you are.
Yeah.
You're only 28 years old. You'll be the youngest woman ever elected to Congress if you win. And in your campaign video, you said, women like me aren't supposed to run for office. Why did you run?
I ran because I felt like we could do better and that we could be better as a country. And I looked around. And we hadn't had a primary election in 14 years in New York 14. So it was clear that no one else was going to be doing this work. And I figured, you know what, if no one else is going to do it, and if I feel like we can be better, then that means it's my responsibility to do something.
And I just want to mention, and I think people should really know this, when you did win, a lot of people said this 28-year-old bartender who isn't qualified, you went to Boston University, you studied economics and international relations, you worked for Ted Kennedy, you worked for Bernie Sanders, you've been a political activist, all while also bartending. and helping your mother because your father passed away.
Yeah, that's
so
exactly right.
people should know that.
Your win sent shockwaves basically through the Democratic Party. They did not expect it.
No.
They spent how much money did they spend on Crowley? A lot.
I mean, it was definitely well over $3 million.
And what did you spend?
You know, for the lion's share of the race, the very end, there was a lot more small dollar donations coming in. But we had about 300,000 up until like those very end days, and then things really started surging.
Okay, so there's quite a discrepancy in the amount of money that the Democratic Party put behind him.
Yeah.
So do you think that that shows the Democratic Party at the moment does not get it? They don't understand to back people like you?
Yeah, well, I think what we're dealing with right now is the dynamics of power. Once someone has power, it is so hard to challenge it, even if you think that that other person was right. So I can't tell you how many times I would talk to people. People were afraid to even take pictures with me in public because of what that could mean.
Wow.
And
what kind of
candidates?
Like you know, local city council members and state
Wow. The party
members, 'cause
apparatus,
there was a
right?
machine, there was a party apparatus, and you can't challenge the boss because then my job's going to be at risk.
Wow.
And so there were so many people behind closed doors that said, I want to support you, I believe you are what's best, but I can't because my job will be at risk. And there's a lot of that going on.
It happens on both sides, trust me.
It does, it does.
Well, we've been talking about on the show, I believe there's a fracture in the Democratic Party, and you consider yourself a Democratic socialist like Bernie Sanders, correct? Nancy Pelosi was asked about you, and she didn't exactly give you a ringing endorsement. I mean, and you didn't exactly give her a ringing endorsement. Do you think that the future of the Democratic Party is socialism?
Well, first of all, there's a huge difference between socialism and democratic socialism. Democratic socialism, and really what that boils down to me, is the basic belief that I believe that in a moral and wealthy America, in a moral and modern America, no person should be too poor to live in this country. That is what I believe. And that's what I believe. And so I can understand that there may be some divisions. You know, I don't think people wake up in the morning and say, I'm a capitalist, you know? And so it's funny that when I win, this is the word that's always so thrown around.
I think Donald Trump wakes up with that exact
word. Yeah, I mean, he may.
But do you think the future of the party is more Bernie than Nancy?
I think that, you know, I think that for young people, I think the future, here's what I think. I think the future of the party is working class. And I think that what I represent, and perhaps, you know, Senator Sanders, also Senator Warren, there's a lot of working class champions in the Democratic Party. And I do think that that's the future.
But they distort the word socialism all the time.
Well, I think we should probably save that conversation for another time, because I'm sure Meghan and I would have disagreements on the socialism part of this. But it's about you today, and what you did was really amazing. You're obviously, I come from a different worldview on how to approach problems, but your campaign video was so fantastic.
Yes,
I wish we could have shown some of it. It was inspiring. It was real. It was relatable. And I really think that that message that is something that's universal. You know, we can debate how you go about those, you know, solving the problems, but, and I think that you should be really proud. And your mom, I know, is here too.
Yeah, she is.
I'm so proud of the fact that you have, she's right there, mom. That's an inspiration for so many women, and not only just women in general, but women of color. So you should be very, very proud of that. So I hear, though, that you potentially want to run for president one day. Is that true? Mom, is that true?
I don't know. My mom tells me that I used to say that as a kid, but it was so, I used to say this on the trail. It's like, it's so hard to run for Congress. I cannot even imagine. I can't even imagine how folks like Hillary Clinton or Bernie Sanders or any of these folks like run for president. It was exhausting just running in the Bronx and Queens.
Well, if Donald Trump can do it, honey, anybody can. Don't stop there if you don't want to.
And people are so excited right now on the heels of your win, because there is a hopeful, aspirational message you have. But there have been a lot of Trump wins this week. He got his travel ban. SCOTUS dealt a blow to the unions. We have the retirement of Justice Kennedy. What power do Democrats have right now?
Yeah. What I like to kind of think about is power in a much broader sense, instead of just who the incumbents in the party are and what they are capable of. I come from the background as an educator and as an organizer. So I believe that our power as a party is in organizing people, a mass movement of people. And when we organize people, when we win hearts and minds, then we impact what happens in those chambers. And that's, I think, where our power can really come from.
Wow. Thanks to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. We'll be right back.